It's an exciting day in Illinois basketball to announce Luke Goody. Luke's a young man that we have been eyeballing for quite some time. We've been on him for a while, and it's nice to bring a piece that absolutely is a perfect fit for our university and for our basketball family. And he's a guy that has tremendous size. That was a priority for us in the recruiting process, was to find a big wing who could really shoot it. And he's a guy that has tremendous versatility. He's not just a step in and shoot and catch. He can come off screens with great pace and be able to shoot the basketball over the top of people. He's your typical gym rat. We call those guys everyday guys. He fits that perfectly, and he's a guy that was a tremendous football player as well. This is the first year he did not play football, so he's got kind of that toughness, competitive mentality that we really like. And he's got a family that mom and dad who were very supportive. They were very good athletes in their own right, and we're excited to have him. He's a high IQ player. He's been exceptionally well coached at the high school level that he's been at. He's been a part of a tremendous AAU program. They've all done a wonderful job, and again, just an outstanding student, being our Geese School of Business, and a guy that just fits in every aspect. He fits. He's the perfect fit for what our need was.
Go ahead, Scott Ritchie.
Afternoon, Coach. I guess you mentioned this is the first fall that Luke hasn't played football, but that maybe singular focus on basketball. How have you in talking with him, or just have you seen that may change his game, change kind of what he is as a basketball player?
Well, I think one of the things that has been very evident is his ability to just stay in the weight room. Luke's been growing like crazy. He's he's all of 6'7", but now he's been able to get in the weight room and have a full-time trainer there. We watched him through some video stuff in an event that he was at, and it's like, my goodness, his shoulders have all filled out all of a sudden, and so it's been great for him to do that. It's allowed him to just focus singularly on certain aspects of his game, and then his body as well. So I'm sure he misses football, but basketball has been his love and his passion, and for some time, and now he's just getting ready to blossom on the basketball court.
Last season in high school, he was sort of pressed into point guard duties because of an injury on their team. What kind of value does that have for him moving forward to have that experience?
Yeah, I mean, he's so multidimensional, and I mean, he can play it because he handles the ball. He's an elite passer no matter where you put him, and again, it was a different role because he became maybe a little more facilitator than scorer, and that role changed, as a point guard. But again, he's a guy that attracts a lot of attention because of his ability to shoot the basketball, and to grow your game, being able to play the point guard spot is going to do nothing but help him in his future plans as he moves to the collegiate level.
I guess one last one since we've got you, but Ayo named a preseason AP All-American today, and just kind of continues the preseason honors for him. What's maybe your reaction to all this coming for him ahead of the season?
No, my goodness. I mean, he deserves it, and I think it speaks volumes to the job that our coaches do in terms of recruiting. I think it speaks volumes to the development that we've seen. We've seen a young man gain 35 pounds. We've seen a young man that's continued to grow and improve his game from one year to the next, and we're going to see an unbelievable Ayo Dosunmu this year, and a guy that has worked very, very hard, and he was one of the best guards in the country last year. At the end of the year, there was no doubt about that, and he's ready to pick up where he left off. And part of that is not just being a first-team All-League, but now he's a first-team All-American.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
Okay, Doug Bouchon, you're up.
Hi, Coach. Hi, Coach. I know you can't talk about specific kids at this point, but what other needs do you have in this current 2021 class? And just based on who you're going to be losing after the season, and are you expecting to sign any more players in the early period?
Yeah, we're very active. We'll see. This recruiting process has been very different than any we've seen, just simply because a lot of kids have not been on campus. And, some are trying to wait that process out and go into the spring. I do know that there's some kids we've been involved with for a few years that are going to go in the spring. And that's okay. But we're actively involved. Obviously with the, decision of Ayo to come back, and now you pair that with what could be Trent leaving. Obviously there's stuff down the road with what happens if those kids come back. We'll deal with that at a later time, but obviously, we'd like to, find a primary ball handler, and see what that looks like. But yeah, we're going to continue to prod and look all over the country and all over the world for those guys.
The seniors have an option to come back too, right? An extra year of eligibility.
Correct.
So is that something that you're considering when you're kind of mapping things out with those 13 available scholarships?
Well, I don't look at that. I don't look at it that way. I think those guys are going to have opportunities, to earn a living playing basketball. But yet, they want to. They have the option to want to do that, and so we'll have those discussions as we move on. I think right now our approach has been pretty singular. Let's try to sign the guys that we know we need and that we want and that fit us. And let's not go out and try to take a reach on somebody or a gamble on somebody, just simply to not put ourselves in a scholarship situation. We know that the transfer waiver will probably pass. So that's going to open a lot of things up in a lot of different areas as well. It could make for just a wild spring, but so we're trying not to put ourselves in a spot that's uncomfortable if those guys do come back, but we're trying to address our needs as well.
Last thing, Coach, and maybe a shot in the dark, but what have you heard in terms of when you might have a schedule in place?
That's a great question. We're 2 weeks from today. We know we're going to play Duke in the ACC Challenge, and I got to think that we're getting closer. We're still waiting on certain things to be firm, and to see what it looks like. Guys, it's hard. It's hard, and I can't tell you anything other than it's a challenging. Joey Biggs is working 12, 14, 16-hour days trying to put all the pieces together, and we're getting closer, but I don't know, and I think it's going to be one of spontaneity. I just had one of the coaches pop their head in, and there's already been a preseason game canceled because of contact tracing, and we're gonna fill in with somebody quickly if that's the case. So what it looks like when we roll it out, maybe something completely different if we have games canceled.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, Derek Piper, you're up. Then Joey Wagner.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. I know a year ago when you brought Steven Gentry on, we wondered on the outside what he'd bring to the program recruiting-wise. I know you had seen some of that at Stephen F. Austin, but did you learn anything about him in this recruitment, just the way that he worked it? And it's a nice feather in his cap to go to Indiana, a place where you haven't gotten someone in a while, and get a top 100 kid.
Well, you guys had to learn him. I didn't. You guys are the ones with all the questions. I knew what I was getting. I'd worked with him before, so yeah, he's a pit bull. He's a pit bull recruiter, and he gets focused. He's got a mentality that he does a great job of circling all the wagons and making sure that he's touched everybody. He's very thorough. He dives in terms of breaking down young people's games and knowing every bit of information there is to know. And he gets centered in on Luke very early, and forged a great relationship. And it goes to show you how good a coach Steven is. And he's not just a basketball coach; he's a very good recruiter and always has been. And so yeah, and to get into a place we haven't had one in a while, and to get into a program where a young man's been coached as well as he's coached, and we know that it's the perfect fit. It's the perfect piece for us, and we're excited. And Steven did an unbelievable job in that process.
A lot of people are going to focus on that Indiana angle. Do you put much stock into that? I know that you look at your roster and you'll take them from anywhere, but at a time when you're building the program up and back as a national presence, is it nice to have that come in from a neighboring state like that?
Not really. You guys think I'm being coach speak, but I really don't look at it like that. I mean, he's a guy that fit, and I mean, he happened to be in Indiana, and I mean, he had Purdue and Indiana and Michigan State and all the Big Ten schools recruiting him, and those guys have come into our state before and got players, and you go where you've got the perfect fit, and Luke was an absolute wonderful fit, and he's got a wonderful family, and you always look at all the angles, with a father who went to Indiana, and and how does that play into things? But my goodness, I mean, his background and his pedigree and he immediately fell in love with our university and our program as we did him. So it's a perfect marriage.
And last one, I know you may not know exactly who you play or what order, but you're going to play here soon. What are you seeing from practice? What do you like? Maybe what are some things you got to get ready for as you approach the season?
Yeah, we're able to put ourselves in a little different situation, Derek, because we've got some veterans, and we've spent. We feel like we're ahead a little bit in terms of being able to work on situations. We had 12 games last year decided by 6 points or less. So we're really focusing in on trying to maximize how we execute in certain situations, and taking the 2-for-1s and taking the last second got to get the ball in, getting fouled situations, and trying to get honed in on those things and what plays we want to run. We're still ways away defensively. The defensive side takes a lot of chemistry. I feel like we're in a solid place offensively, and yet we've just got to continue. We don't have everything in yet, and now we're to that point the last couple of weeks where you start adding press breakers and you start adding different situations. So we've still got some work to do. There's no doubt. But the one thing we're trying to hammer home is just that consistent effort every single day, knowing that we're going to take everybody's best shot.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, Joey, you're up, and then Matthew Stevens.
Hey, Brad, you mentioned you've been eyeballing Luke for a while. Do you remember when he first kind of came on your radar, how he did, and what you kind of thought of him way back when?
Yeah, I think it was a couple summers ago. And it was on the AAU circuit, obviously. And we were looking for a guy that, again, had was an exceptional shooter. I mean, there's no doubt coming into it's one of the things we've been trying to address, and trying to have guys that have great size, and not just the 6'3", 6'4" guys, but guys that can extend the floor in 6'7", 6'8", and we knew Luke was continuing to grow, and you could tell by his frame, and loved his jump shot. And then it was just one of those situations where we got on him and forged a relationship. We were very fortunate. We got him over here a few times to campus, so he could see it firsthand. He saw State Farm Center in a couple different games. And again, it was I'm so excited they felt as comfortable with us as we did him. And so it was we were fortunate in the fact that before all this COVID stuff, he'd been on campus a couple times.
And we see some programs adding 2, 3 guys today, but you guys have really always, in your tenure here, done work in that second signing period, the more traditional one. Where does that patience, I guess, come from to not panic with just a sheer number of names in the first one and kind of let things play out?
Yeah, I mean, what good does a good ranking do early if you're you got to put them all together at the end. You got to see what the final product is. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do is be specific and not panic and not I think one of the things that one of the real challenges, we recruit guys all year long at every position. And then when your team gets there and you actually look at them that year and you say, okay, how does it all fit? What do we need? And you're always trying to fill a hole. And yet when you get into practice, it might not be a hole anymore. You may have found it with the recruit or so-and-so, but I feel great about Luke, because we've known that's been a concern, and shooting and size and toughness, and his mentality just fits. And but yeah, we'll again, we're continuing to beat the paths, and I've got one of the best staffs in the country in terms of guys getting players, and but they're going to get the guys that fit us. I think COVID has changed the scenario where a lot of kids are going late. And like I said, I'm expecting a semi-wild spring, from the standpoint of transfers and guys signing late.
And I wanted to ask you about a couple guys you got last year, and Adam and Andre. Those two are kind of linked, I guess, in the minds of a lot of fans, just given how they came in at the guard position. And they're fairly close, it sounds like, roommates, do a lot of things together. What kind of bond have you seen those two develop over the course of the last?
They're very close. They're very, very close. They've got a great relationship. They're you can tell they like each other a lot. They get matched together a lot in practice. It's fun to see that kind of synergy between them. And they're such different players, and that's why it fits. And they're they complement each other, and that's really exciting for what they're both going to bring to the table this season. They're both going to be leaned on heavily at a very young age, and yet they're both have a maturity about them that is beyond their years. So yeah, I'm excited about both those young men.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, Matthew.
Brad, you had a player at Stephen F. Austin named Jacob Parker. Am I reaching that the skill sets of those two guys with him and Luke are very, very similar, or am I reaching there?
They're a little bit different, but similar. Jake ended up becoming a conference player of the year. The one thing that happened with Jacob Parker was, he basically became our 5-man. And, he might've been the best shooting 5-man in the country. But he was 6'6", 6'7". Luke Goody's Luke's a little better athlete, I think, in terms of running, jumping. He's got Jake was their IQ, their feel, their passing, very similar, but they have some tendencies, but I would hate to link them together and say, because I think Luke Goody does some things that are pretty exceptional.
You've mentioned how well Luke has been coached throughout his entire process, whether it's at the high school level, the AAU level, whatever it may be. How integral is that in how you go about recruiting kids, and how much they've been coached and how well they've been coached before you get them?
Well, it definitely helps in the process, and I think the one thing that it makes the transition easier. When you have an idea of terminology, when you have an idea of concepts, when you have an idea of what you're doing defensively, then it helps expedite the process of being ready to play at the highest level. And I think that's one of the challenges that all coaches, not just myself, is guys that have a lot to learn. Sometimes that process gets bogged down, and Luke's in great shape there. He's there's no doubt it's a change physically, it's a change from a conditioning and strength standpoint, and then you add the mental component of having to learn a new system, and all that can be pretty burdensome at times, and Luke's ahead of the game there. So we're again, we look for it. His IQ, his feel is all great, and that'll help him in the transition.
If I could ask a quick COVID question, I'm curious, Brad, if you've had to change behaviors of your players, and what I specifically mean is, are you having guys live by themselves because of contact tracing, in the sense that, we've just seen on the football team some roommates get popped because of contact tracing and they're not even positive? Is that something that you and your staff have talked about how to avoid that throughout the course of a year?
Yeah, it's a continual process, and again, it's not the most feasible situation to keep guys in single rooms. When they're got their names on a contract and paying rent and doing those things. But I think when you start looking at travel, I think when you start looking at different scenarios, contact tracing, no doubt, is a major concern, and how you separate it. And again, we tell guys to constantly, every day, shrink their circle. You can't interact with others, and that's one of the things, main reason why the everyday testing allows them, when they're on the court and they're in the practice mode, to not have contact tracing. As soon as they step out in the real world, all bets are off, and it's back to contact tracing. And we've seen it more and more as the spike has gone up. We've seen it on the football side a great deal, and we talk about positives all the time, but contact tracing will be the biggest challenge.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, thanks for doing this. Going back to the schedule, I know you can't comment on it too much, but when you heard that you were playing Duke, what was that first reaction? And when you found out you're getting an opportunity to go down to Cameron Indoor?
I don't know. Okay. I mean, it's good. I think there's obviously it's Coach K. You know what he's accomplished. He's all-time winningest coach. There's tremendous respect there for him. Obviously, his program has been at a level that's elite for a long time. So you're respectful, and yet you look at it as an opportunity, and you're going to find out. His teams play exceptionally hard. You're going to find out where you're at in that category. His team's going to be talented. You're going to find out, how good you are, and it's part of a challenge that we're trying to help the Big Ten win their fair share of games, and they're as Stephen F. Austin's proved, they're not unbeatable at home. So it'll be different. I think somebody told me the other day they're not allowing fans, so that'll be probably a little different setting. But you have so much respect for Coach and the program, but our guys are going to go in there and fight as his guys always do.
And then just a quick follow-up. When you were hired, you mentioned the importance of playing a difficult non-conference schedule. Having a team with as high as expectations as you do during such a weird season, How important maybe is it to have such a difficult schedule? And obviously there's scheduling restraints, but is that a goal that you've kind of made to have a difficult schedule this year?
Well, I think it's where you get better. And I think that, I think one of the great challenges is you if you play people early, you have a real reality, and you find out who you are and what you are. And then when you play them early, then you have the opportunity to correct some of those mistakes and change some of your identity and problems. It's, I'm not one of those guys that think, well, let's go 12-0 in non-league and play, RPIs or strength of schedule of 250 or under. And then all of a sudden you jump into the Big Ten and you get smacked and you haven't dealt with any adversity. I want to deal with adversity. I want to find out truly who we are, and then we can make those adjustments. I look at a school in our league, Tom Izzo. I think he's got more losses than any coach that's taken teams to the Final Four. You look up and they've got 7, 8, 9 losses. Well, why? He plays an unbelievable schedule, and he gets his team ready. But yet in March, you see where they end up. So I've always adhered to that philosophy. I think guys want to play in tough games and big games, and we recruit to that. And I think it's great for the fans. And we're gonna challenge ourselves the best we can every year.
And then one last one, you mentioned the fans there. I'm sure you saw how excited some of the fans were about the opportunity to go down and play Duke. What was that like for you as a coach to see the fans just that excited about a single game, a non-conference game?
I'd like to say I know what you're talking about, but I have not been on social media since October 1st. And I think that's one of the things that I have learned is kind of, it's going to be another game. There'll be a great energy about it. There's no doubt about that. I'm happy for our fans. Our fans deserve games like that. I think our fans enjoy games like that. They relish those opportunities. But again, it's a conference. It's a non-conference game. And hopefully we, whatever the outcome is, and it's a heck of a learning experience. And if we can win, great. We'll grow from that. If we lose, we'll grow from that and help us get to hopefully where we want to be in March.
Okay, we're going to go to Jeremy Warner. This is the last question. We have to stay on schedule for Coach Hartleb, and also Coach Underwood has something after this. So go ahead, Jeremy, wrap us up.
Hey, Brad, just one last question for you. Obviously, Ayo Dosunmu coming back is big for your program, but maybe even long-term, because Andre and Adam are pushed every day by him. I know you're a big culture guy, and Trent and DeMonte would have been here regardless, but what do you think the impact of Ayo in leading this program and those guys being with him for a year, what do you think that means for those guys long-term?
Yeah, there's no doubt what a great role model. You can't ask. I think that's what, Jeremy, it's what basketball used to be. When you back in the day, you learned from your veterans. You learned what the program was about. You learned what it took. You matured. You saw the growth. You followed their path. And Ayo and Trent are assassins. There is no play off in practice. They try to embarrass you. They don't care how big or how good or how many stars or what you are or walk on. They're going to try to embarrass you. And now all of a sudden those guys have been in high school and they're going against some other kid who's not very good. And man, all of a sudden now they're seeing those two guys and Ayo Dosunmu just try to embarrass you on every play. And now they see that's our culture. And it's an everyday guy thing. And now all of a sudden they're trying to do it. And now it becomes ultra competitive. And, that spurs development and growth. And they see Ayo in here at 5 a.m. every morning. And now it's like, well, if he's doing it, I've got to do it. And that just continues to enhance and grow the culture of your program. And now Ayo's, he's got respect. And, when he says, hey, when we go to Ohio State or we go to Penn State or we go here, this is what's going to happen, and he can instruct that way. And it's not just me, now it's him. So a guy like Ayo, he's very deserving of all the accolades. He's going to have a great year. And yet to get a guy like that as a junior, who's been through it all, who's added 30 pounds, who's, done it from experience, that speaks volumes to the growth of those guys.